Hey everyone, Fearcrawler here. Welcome to the video. The first two stories are going to be unique to this video. The last two are an excerpt from a collab I did on TheThoughts channel. I'll link that particular channel in the description below. I do hope you'll enjoy. About a year ago, I was in my dorm browsing various websites on my laptop. Websites like LiveLeak were my main destination for disturbing images and videos. But there was one video that intrigued me. It was titled, Distress. I clicked onto the video. It started out normal. It looked like some kind of torture vid. Room was dark, clanging in the background. And then I heard the most stomach-curdling noise. The noise was someone in pain. No! They were screaming, going up to a full screech. The sound of ripping flesh made me gag. The screen was still on the black background. No movement whatsoever. Then I realized the noise wasn't coming from the video. It was coming from the room a few dorms over. I hadn't had the volume up. The noise stopped for a while. Then suddenly, oh my god, did I wake up. I instantly jumped up out of my chair and fell on the floor. My laptop fell on my chair in a way that I could still see what website it was on. But it wasn't on LiveLeak. It was static. The laptop must have fell too hard. But then, hidden in the static, was a person. Their face was blown off. You could still see the bare muscle and flesh, along with bits and pieces of the skull poking out. The screen flashed to black. It must have died. I was using it all night. I put it on charge and I went to bed. My roommate was out with friends, so I was alone here. I left my laptop open and charging. I didn't think much of it since I was tired and ready to sleep. But that night, I didn't get much sleep. That noise earlier shook me to the point where I couldn't think of anything but the sound of a shotgun blast. I woke up the next day to a loud knock on my door. I instantly thought this was a dorm check. I hid my alcohol under my bed and I scrambled to open the door. A policeman instantly started cramming questions onto me.
Where were you at 11 p.m. last night?
I was in this dorm.
Have you heard or seen anything unusual lately?
No, officer. Everything was fine last night.
Thank you, sir.
I shut the door and realized I had forgotten the whole incident last night. I knew I couldn't tell him now. He would think I'm crazy for forgetting something like that. But I opened the door, peeked my head out, and looked up and down the hall. The officer was nowhere to be found. The halls were at least 40 feet long, so there was no way he walked out of sight in the 3 seconds after I shut the door. But I didn't think much of it after. Classes were stressful. Work piled up. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked up and down the hallway knocking on every door. I asked every one of them, "Have you heard anything strange lately?" Most opened the door and politely answered no. One dorm room allegedly had no owner, but when I knocked, the door opened. No one answered it, but the door itself creaked open to reveal a room covered entirely by bed sheets, the couch, recliner, and beds, although one item remained uncovered. A laptop. It sat on the bed with a static screen. I saw the same freaky image of a man with his face blown off. But then I realized something. The man was wearing familiar clothing. He was wearing my clothing. I was terrified at this point and immediately left the room. Later that day, I find a SWAT team entering the dorm building. They were looking for someone dangerous. They came out with someone and gave the okay for everyone to come back in. I waddled back to my dorm drenched in fear. I found the door to the white room kicked in. The SWAT found the man in there. I was in that room for a solid minute and could have died. Every waking moment, I'm paranoid to walk into any room, including my house. And I never found out how they got the image of my face blown off. Let's just say, I won't be on the deep web for a while. I had gotten a tip on a Red Door site. Getting in wasn't easy. You had to contact the right person, and they'd decide to let you in or not. Shockingly, I got in. I was told that the site was free to use, but the real fun only started if I gave up some bitcoins. What I found was a black site with an embedded video in a chat box. In the chat box there were different groups, and pressing play loaded the most popular live stream going on. I knew before any of this that Tor was not going to be enough. I pulled every trick in the book to hide myself. There's no such thing as being too careful. I found no way to switch the videos. Only one would play and I could access the main chat. What was weird was there was no live streams yet. Nothing would load. No one was chatting and I figured the site was dead, and I was about to leave. But then I got a message from a username that just said, admin. The message read,
Welcome to our lovely site. How are you doing today? The streams aren't available to you as you are not a known user. Even though some of the site is free, we don't let just anybody in.
My curiosity got the better of me, so I replied, I was given this link by someone who either uses this site or is an admin. Do I need to register or pay? I want to test this site before I give any money. While I was waiting for his reply, the page reloaded and it looked like Twitch kind of, if Twitch was around in 2004. You know when you pull up the games page and it shows you all the games people are playing? Picture that, but instead, it was things like live skinning, live cannibalism, and so on. Another message popped up, and it said,
See anything you like?
I didn't know what to do. Reply? Just run? Or stay and see if it's real? I told him I was going to look around at some of the streams. He then said,
Alright, but you just have a free account. The really good stuff is only for paying members.
I clicked on live cannibalism because, hey, what's the worst that could happen? 84 different channels streaming. I can't go into too much detail, but live cannibalism didn't just mean it was live on stream. These people were alive, screaming and crying for help. The one I watched there was 3 different men eating a girl. I shut down my computer. I just ripped the plug out. I got in the shower and just stood there for what felt like forever. I couldn't believe what I just saw. I lied down, just trying to forget what kind of sick hellhole I ended up in. Then my phone went off. I guessed it was my girlfriend passively aggressively telling me goodnight, because I had just ignored her for about 2 hours. I opened to a message from a blocked number saying,
Where'd you go? You didn't get scared, did you? I'd hate to send people to your house and make you one of the paid events.
I didn't reply because I was terrified. Then another message.
One of our users lives near you. He said he can pay you a visit.
I was even more terrified now, but I figured he was bluffing. So I replied saying, You don't know where I live. The next message just had my address. Now I was scared. I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'9" and I've only seen the inside of a gym twice. I grabbed my knife and sat in my living room with the lights off, just waiting. Then another message came, just saying,
Hi.
I peeked out my window, and I saw a man standing outside my apartment in all black with a hood up. He just stood there and waved at me. I saw him pull out his phone and I got another message saying,
Don't return to our site. and I won't make you a paid event.
He then turned around and just walked away. I ripped out my hard drive and smashed it, and I threw it away. I got a new phone and a new number. If you take anything away from this story, don't go digging in the deep web. Don't ever. So I know that red rooms are impossible on Tor, and that's true, but I didn't access it on Tor. So what happened was, I was going through the hidden wiki when I came across a page with lots of different links. I scrolled about halfway down the page and started clicking on links. Most of them were weird cult sites with just random things. But then I came across a site that just had a big red button, which had the word download on it in orange letters. I was using a spare laptop that I didn't have any personal information on, and I was at a local McDonald's and using McDonald's Wi-Fi, so I didn't care if the download was malware. I pressed download and I got a pop-up from the antivirus asking me if I want to download. I pressed yes. The download took about 15 minutes, and when it was done, the file name was just random numbers and letters. When I pressed it, the screen was white, and it took about a minute for the thing to load. Once it was loaded, I could tell that it was a live stream from the chat box on the side. The live stream was of some guys stabbing cats and rabbits and then eating them raw. There were 24 people watching the live stream, including me, and it said the number of viewers on the top right of the page. I didn't try to click off of the page as I thought that it wouldn't work, so I just took out my USB killer and fried the laptop's motherboard. A few days ago, I noticed that when I woke up, there was a pentagram drawn in black paint on my grass. I don't know if this is related to my deep web experience. I hope it isn't. This story is 100% real, and is about an experience I had going on the deep web. For those of you who don't know, the deep web is pretty much the hidden internet. It isn't indexed by search engines, and you need special software to go on it. It is several thousand times bigger than the surface internet, which can be reached by Google, Yahoo, Bing, etc. It is home to many illegal things. You can buy stolen guns, any drug you can imagine, stolen phones, you can even hire hitmen. Any illegal thing you can imagine is on the deep web. I never had a great childhood. My dad was gone all the time, and my mom was too. When she was home, it was normally verbal and physical abuse. I always needed to have a way to escape it all, whether it was playing video games, watching movies, or even drinking. One day, I was invited over to a friend's house for a sleepover. When I got there, he immediately told me that he had something to show me. We went upstairs and he showed me his laptop. He said he had got onto the deep web. We stayed up until late at night browsing through all the interesting things on it. He showed me how to use it and I took some notes. The next day, I decided to try it out for myself. I downloaded the software and was good to go. When on the deep web, there's a page full of links. In order to go to the sites, you keep clicking on the new links that pop up. At first it was very boring. Tons of dead websites, or disgusting ones filled with videos of real people getting killed. Eventually I found a forum. I can't remember what it was about, but I asked how to get to any interesting sites that were not illegal. One guy sent me a link and said that it was a site that contained leaked government documents. I thought that was interesting, so I clicked on it. When I pulled up the page, I was pretty shocked. It was a whole bunch of videos of people getting tortured, raped, murdered in the most horrible ways. I have a pretty strong stomach, so I was ready to ignore it and just exit out. But I realized that all the videos were playing at once. When I moved the mouse over one, there was no bar to let you pause or stop it. That's when it hit me. They were all thousands of live streams. I clicked on one that said, "Homeless man kidnapped in my basement." In it, a man was tied to a chair covered in blood. To his left was a table, and on it was a whole bunch of tools like axes, knives, drills, hammers, etc. And there was a hooded man standing by it. On the right of the livestream there was a chat box, and people were requesting that the hooded man do various things, like cut off the homeless man's hands, rip out his hair, and so on. Eventually, one man in the chat box said that he would pay several Bitcoin for the hooded man to gouge out the homeless man's eyes. The hooded man agreed and grabbed what looked like a fork off the table and began to walk to the homeless man. I quickly closed the live stream, but I could still hear it. I tried to leave the site, but it was frozen, and I could only hear the horrible sounds coming from the stream.
No! No! No!
A few seconds later, the sound stopped, and a chat box appeared in the center of the screen. I couldn't exit out, but then in the box, somebody typed in,
"Hello, how do you like the site?"
I paused for a moment, not sure if it was some kind of automated message, but then he typed again.
"Are you going to answer?"
I stayed frozen in place but eventually typed in, "Who is this?" The guy explained that he was the owner of the site and that he liked to greet first-time users whenever he could. I got a disgusted look on my face, and this is where things got really scary. In the chat box, the man typed,
"It's rude to make faces, Jake."
My eyes got wide, and I noticed my webcam was on, when I always keep it off. Also, how did this man know my name? I covered up the webcam with a sticky note and typed, "How do you know my name? I'm calling the police." There was a brief pause, and then, horrifyingly, a whole bunch of data was posted in the box. I looked at it and realized what it was. Everything about me. My full name, email, address, age. It even had all my parents' info as well. I panicked and shut off my computer and hoped that it would be the end of that. I did a complete wipe of all my computer's data and went to get a drink. I was under a lot of stress. That night my mom said she wouldn't be home. She didn't say where she was, but at this point in my life I didn't care. My dad, of course, was nowhere to be seen. I couldn't sleep, so I stayed up watching a movie. I fell asleep on the couch. I don't know why, but at about 2:30 in the morning I woke up. The TV was still on and it gave off a dim light. But when I opened my eyes a little more, I almost screamed. There was a man standing just a few feet away from me with a mask on. I flew off of the couch and darted for the door. I heard heavy footsteps coming after me. I flung open the door and ran outside, screaming as loud as I could, trying to get somebody's attention. I looked behind me and saw the man. He was running, and he was faster than me. I screamed louder and noticed I had tears running down my face. Then a bag wrapped around my head and I was pushed to the ground with such force that I felt blood in my mouth. I heard a car speed up beside me, and I was being dragged to the sound of it. They were taking me away, and probably I was going to be on that site. I had almost expected my death when the man with the mask screamed in pain and dropped me. I pulled the bag off of my head and saw a van speed away. And I saw my neighbor hitting the masked man with a baseball bat. police arrived, took the masked man in, eventually caught the van and shut down the site. My mom and I moved out, and I will never ever go on the deep web again. And I encourage others to never go on it either.